Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, I have a great guest, and I'm very excited. He's actually the first man and the first math tutor that I have here on my podcast. I want to talk to this nice guest that I have. He's going to be introducing himself pretty soon. And I want to talk today about the reality of what's happening with math, how we are teaching math, not only in the schools, as tutors. And I think this is going to be a perspective from two tutors that really love math. They're very passionate about education. And I can see they're concerned about what's happening and what will happen if we continue letting things happen this way, plus this pandemic, what can happen? Please welcome Devin. Devin, how are you? Tell us who's Devin. Who's Devin? Let's start from there.
Hey, thank you for having me, Miss Vanessa. My name is Devin. I am also known as the Math Coach, which is my business name. I started the Math Coach 4 years ago in the midst of me being a full-time teacher. I just kind of, as a math teacher, people are going to always ask you, hey, can you tutor my child? So it's something that it kind of just naturally picked up. And I'm like, hey, I ought to kind of just do this as a little gig because people kind of paid me even though I didn't ask for it. So I kind of like, okay, this may be something I can pick up in the long term. So I did it part-time for a while. And as I kind of like saw this, as I kind of realized as a teacher, going into like, I did 7 years of teaching. And I kind of realized like, the school system not serving our students the way I would like our students to be served or what our students need. So I kind of knew that I probably wasn't going to be in the school system much longer. So I really started to focus more on this business side so that I can leave the classroom, start this business, and really kind of start to produce the kind of math model and learning that our students need that could better equip them for like 21st century skills, not just
like be free. Count with your fingers, really it's okay.
Yes, really, that's what it is. Freedom, creative freedom, when it comes to learning math and just kids really learning things that they're going to use in the world as it relates to math. So that's kind of what this is about, really kind of just creating. I tutor students, but also just like allows me to kind of create things where students, we could connect math to students and give them something and kind of create that model where schools can eventually adopt to begin teaching like some real world math.
What really matters.
Yes.
I'm gonna tell you, Devin. I'm gonna put your Instagram because I think you have not only you target like little tutorials and you do a lot of things for your own students. You're very involved with the community and you work. Tell us a little bit about your work for the community and where you're from.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, I'm from New Orleans. I have to throw that out there. I'm from the city of New Orleans.
Now we can hear the accent. I'm from New Orleans. Yes. I like it.
I try to disguise it sometimes, but it just comes out. But when Hurricane Katrina passed, I was I won't give away my age. I was. I want to give away my age. I was a senior in high school. Hurricane Katrina passed, so someone could do the math. And so I was a senior, so I was also going to college anyway. So I pretty much spent 10 years at LSU in Baton Rouge. And I always wanted to come back home and teach. My goal was being a teacher wasn't just to teach, but I'm like, I want to come back to my own city and community to be a teacher. That was my main goal.
What was it? Only math. And what levels do you teach? High school? Middle school?
Mostly high school. I started off in middle school thinking that it was just little high school kids with
that's the hardest math. I think when I see a fifth grader worksheet from a Common Core, I go, oh, what is this?
Yeah, I was mistaken. I only did 1 year middle school, then I went to high school where I wanted to be, and I never left since. So I did 1 year middle school, 6 years of high school. But most of my teaching was done in Baton Rouge, and I always wanted to come back to New Orleans. So I came back 4 years ago, and I was able to come back home and really just begin teaching at home, and it's just, just being around the students and kind of just hearing them talk about places where I'm from and stuff like that. I was like, yes, I'm home, And so, so eventually kind of just really getting involved in my own community. I live in the same area I grew up in.
Wow.
Out here, and, so I'm here,
Good. You feel good. You feel good. Devin, that's awesome. And I have to say that whoever goes to your Instagram is very interesting because it takes a lot. Let's talk about being a professional tutor. There are not that many people that you can say, oh, what do you do for a living? I remember when people ask me, oh, and I'm like, oh, I'm a tutor. And they look at you like, you tutor? Like a joke, right? And then you say, I am a math tutor. And then you cannot, people then like, oh, math, yes, blah, blah, blah. And then they start talking about their kids. It's automatic. My kid is good in math. My kid is bad in math. And you're like, the last thing I want to talk about is math on my free time. But I love the story, how you became a tutor, because you taught on the public schools, New Orleans, which, you know, they're tough. We're not talking about, these are like real tough schools. And you have seen the changes. What I wanted, before we started the conversation, you were telling me you're right now doing your master's, right, Devin? What is your master's? Tell us about your master's. What are you doing?
Yes, so this is world news because, you know, I haven't told anybody. Yes, I started on my master's degree in education and technology.
Nice.
So it's pretty much, you know, it's a master of education with a focus on integrating technologies and education. And I chose that path not only because I already incorporated technology in my classroom for a long time, in so many different ways, not just the PowerPoint and using email, but all kind of other ways. And also just I feel like that's like the direction we're headed, and I feel like our schools and teachers don't have the tools needed to really know how to integrate it properly. Because it's not meant to replace the teacher.
So how much, very good point, and let's grab this point. Okay. When I went to school, I am much older, but I'm older than you are. When I went to school, we didn't have the internet and all this, and my job was to do the even or odd numbers. Whatever you didn't have the answer in the back, they will tell you, and then you have to go back, and then you have like a real book, no iPad, nothing. And then you had to literally just go and kill yourself with 10, 20 problems. And you didn't have Google or all this. I felt that you had to struggle so much that you had to learn, want it or not, because math is a language. You repeat it. And what people really don't understand about math is that algebra 1, algebra 2, that's just basically grammar. That's nothing. And I love when people, when am I going to use this? Well, unless you do engineering, it's going to come there. But it is, we do use it all the time. And my problem is that nowadays, there is so much AI, artificial intelligence, teaching the kids math, YouTube, and some of them are really good. But you've been teaching in high school. Now everything is go to this, log in, do your homework, and that's it. And a lot of the time, especially when they're like AP advanced classes, they have use the calculator. And the students sometimes don't even have a calculator or know how to use the calculator. So you're absolutely right. There's a lot of integration now of calculators, but how much is too much? Do you think we're failing the kids because we're putting all these homeworks online and it's so easy? And well, they say easy, I don't think it's easy.
Right. Yeah, I think we fail the kids when for one, when we use technology to replace teachers, and when we use technology in a way and not still hold the people accountable, because we can't hold technology accountable.
That's true. It's a tool. Yes.
Right. It's another tool in addition to a textbook or a whiteboard in the classroom. Like, it's just another tool that you can use to really enhance learning. You know, so the teachers are meant to still be there. I feel like the teacher's job is still to like help facilitate learning and assess those knowledge. You know, whether you even give a computer-based test, for example, it should be a teacher going over there assessing, looking at those results and saying like, okay, this is what this student needs, and still working with the student. You know, the technology is meant to make it more efficient to, you know, get data and get results and whatnot in those kind of ways. But the teacher should be very much involved. And I think like when we use tests and like, because a lot of students get by just, you know, Googling, you know, entering the answers, just completing the work. And
or just Google the problem, and then you just switch the numbers and you're like, yeah, I got it right. You didn't even think about it.
Exactly. And it's and a lot of stuff that people use is out there. It's like I've seen people like working on their homework and they could Google the question, and the answer to the question are pretty much on the internet. You could take a picture of the question and answer, all type of answers pop up. I mean, there's so much available to find answers to stuff. But you know, when the teacher's involved and you're giving those like open-ended problems or truly doing some problem solving stuff where you have to apply that knowledge, now, you can't Google that because there's no one answer. You have to give a thoughtful response. You have to think critically and really like come up with, you have to apply this. You have to know what you're talking about. You have to understand the concept enough to be able to talk about whatever it is, the content that you're working on, whatnot, to answer those questions or solve that problem. So when you assess students in that kind of manner, there's no technology that can make up for that. You have to learn.
When you went to school, Devin, did you like? I was very fortunate that my brother was an engineer. I mean, he wasn't an engineer at that time, but he was really good in math. So he will help me, and I have resources. I had, if I needed a tutor. How was when you went learning math? How many resources were available for you? And how do you think now is that different from the kids that now have so much, except an adult next to them teaching them? What do you think is the difference?
Yeah, I think it is a lot different. I mean, I can say that like when I was in high school, in college, kind of like things on the internet kind of just started becoming available, so I did have access to the internet, but it wasn't as easy as it was to find help on the internet when I was in college and high school. I mean, high school, I didn't even use the internet in high school because, I mean, that was like, not that many people had the internet there.
You had to learn the perimeter. Was the addition of the... like,
right. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, you pretty much had to rely on textbooks or whatever your notes were from class, or you might have to go to the library to get something,
Or if you have one of those teachers that they were very meticulous about their notes, because they were I think teachers before used to give notes and this is going to be on the test and everyone would be like.
Exactly, right.
Now
right.
people are like, and you're like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious what a college classroom looks like now because I haven't been in a classroom.
Well, I'll tell you.
So, yeah, I mean, I can remember sitting there writing notes, and I guess that's probably different now. I'm not sure. But
it is tough, and I'm gonna tell you, it's getting worse with the pandemic, obviously. And I think that you start this damage because you do damage the student, especially in math. If you're just putting this YouTube, and it's so tedious and repetitive when you get a fifth grader to repeat 1,000 divisions, instead of thinking, okay, let's do 4 divisions, and the next one is a little bit more challenging, and we gradually, but it's because you know what happens, Devin, that you start with a homework, right? And you get the first one right, and you're like, yes. And the second one, you don't get it right. And then you have, there are softwares that they just want to destroy you mentally. 3 more incorrect, and I understand the students, and that's when you start thinking, how much cheating are the students doing? We're talking about already high school, college level. How much you think that's going on, Devin? Do you think like kids are having integrity, or they need to get the help because AI is making them impossible to do this?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is going on. I've seen it firsthand. I get a lot of requests to do it, when I talk to other people, they talk about who they have doing stuff for them. And so a lot of it is going on, definitely. Yeah, and that's what happens when, you use technology with no teacher, which is happening a lot as well. Students could just take their class, take the test, and pretty much pass classes. So yeah, definitely a lot of it's going on. And right, you'll have a lot of students who pretty much passing through classes and haven't learned much of anything.
With A+. That's my concern is going through there. So do you think there has been a lot of controversy now for the SAT and ACT? Do you think it will be fair to remove a standardized test? Like, how do we really know if these kids are good or not? Because I remember being a tutor and they were all A+. Sometimes I would be like, this A+ means nothing. You're just not learning. You're going to pass to the second algebra and you're going to suffer again. And it's just getting worse. So to go back to my point, what can we do, Devin, as tutors? What can we do to encourage this kid to tell them math is fun, it's beautiful, you can make money teaching math?
Yes, but definitely, bringing those examples into the classroom, like, it's one thing to talk about, like, these group of people make money doing it, or engineers, use math. Let's bring engineering into the classroom. Let's have an engineering course and incorporate that. Don't teach us all the math that's not necessary and tell us about all the stuff we can apply it to. Let's actually do that. Let's bring the applications into the classroom and, let's learn that, because the stuff that they're learning now, they're not going to use. So it's like, it seems backwards to me. It's like we learn all the stuff that you're probably not going to use, but then speculate on like, all this great stuff you can do with math. Like, let's do it.
I think they need to integrate statistics in the program, period. Like, why we're not teaching statistics, and not as an elective. I think statistic is the most useful math that we can all use. We can figure it out if they're giving you a fake news. You go, if you know statistics and you see those numbers, you're like, I love statistics. Going back, and then I want to ask you, what is your favorite and the worst subject to teach? But going back, so do you think that we should keep the SAT and ACT?
So that's a tough one. I mean, as far as like holding students accountable, because like grades aren't really like, I feel like, a good idea. A good like measure of like what students at from the school's grades. So I mean, I believe they have a place for measuring certain things, but what I don't agree with is like holding students back for not performing well on that, because I feel like there's other things that measure students, abilities or whatnot. But I do think it has its place in measuring a lot of other things. So, I'm okay with testing, just understanding like what test shows and understanding like what it doesn't show.
God, yeah, no, you have a good point, because in my years of tutoring, I have seen that the people that had the most resources, obviously, because it takes money to really get a score that, if you want to go to like an Ivy League university or anything, it's a lot of money, because you have to get the tutor. A lot of the parents that get the tutors, usually they don't understand the SAT or ACT, and they panic, and these schools are telling you, like, if you don't do well, you're doomed. Your child is done, And no one thinks about, once they get into the school and then you through college algebra, and then this kid is completely lost, then you get very depressed. Taking a college algebra class in college, having the skills of an algebra, half middle algebra skills, you're going to get stressed. You're going to think, I cannot do this. I'm going to drop out. That's it. Mm-hmm. And the United States education, different than other, like for example, in Venezuela, if you want to become a lawyer from the first day, you don't do any math. Like that's it. You start like a lawyer school, right? Or if you want to be, I don't know, something sociology, you will never have to take math. Here, it's not like that. Here you have the 2 years. No matter if you want to go to clown school, you must take 6 credits. College algebra, and I'm not kidding, it's true. College algebra, and then whatever other class, whatever, liberal arts. But and then that's when you see a lot of people frustrated saying, when will I need this? When, which I understand why we're teaching math. You want to develop your critical things and all that, but it is tough. And I bet you get the same question, when I'm going to use this. Devin, what is your favorite and your least favorite, if you have any, subject to teach?
So I'm gonna pick two as I'm gonna pick a favorite math subject, which is statistics.
Statistics.
Right. In another lifetime, I would have been a history teacher. I
wow.
would tell people all the time that history is my favorite subject. Math is my favorite to teach. But definitely statistics. Just because it's can be applied to so many things, and it's just, we see it every day. Teaching wise, it incorporates so many things that you would learn in algebra, geometry, and even calculus, So it's like you're getting a piece of all those in one class in a way that, you can apply it to almost any real life situation, I
love statistics. I mean, the beginning is a little bit tedious because you have to learn terms, but it applies to everything, law, biology. And that's what I'm thinking. Why we're not teaching statistics as an required class?
Right, it should definitely be required.
I will take geometry and put statistics and just add geometry a little bit to algebra. Why do I need to teach a whole year about proofs? Geometry is my least favorite classes, you can see. Okay, so history and statistics. Which class, when a student calls you, you're like, oh God, no.
Oh, this is a tough one. Actually, I guess I don't have a least.
Look at Devin. That's a real tutor. Look at the passion there. It's like I don't have anything that I
Well,
hate.
I'm gonna get the way when you put it that way, I do have a subject for like those scenarios, but I wouldn't say it's my least favorite subject, but that would be calculus. And I love calculus actually.
Depending on the teacher, on the professor.
Yeah, it's one of those things that really has a lot of applications. It's a subject that can be applied. That's why I like it. But it's just so much to keep up with, being that like, I kind of chose to go the statistics route, and there's so much in statistics you can do with. Like I tutor like master's students, PhD students, and there's so much you can do with statistics. Like
it's a great class to tutor. Yes, if you want to be a tutor, do not teach algebra. No, I'm serious, and you will agree with me, Devin, because if you get a good statistic tutor, they'll pay anything. How much you want? Because it's hard to get a good statistic tutor that can also go to apply to QMB, do master class. O sea, you know, look at my Spanish coming out. You know what I mean? And I think calculus too, depending of the professor, will be. I enjoy calculus, but like calculus 2, and you start these integrals, like, and I'm like, enough. Like, like it's fun, but honestly, you have to be in a time that you have a lot of time, and you think about it, and you're like, I wonder what is the best identity. But other than that, you're right. I mean, calculus, I really like it because you can see it in the minimization, maximization problems. You also use, but people, when they tell me when I'm going to use this, we need to tell them, guys, all this algebra is just literally pre-calculus. It's just get you to calculus so you can do calculus. That's it. That's all what it is.
Right.
Yeah. So it is tough. Now, Devin, so you're the math coach, right? Is it, so you basically just teach on your own, like, are you right now going to schools? How does the math coach work? Tell us about it.
So when I started doing this full time, I actually one of my goals really to really get into schools, because I never wanted to leave the classroom. So my goal is to really start working with schools and whatnot. And I kind of just started full time August of 2019, last school year. So that was happening. You know, I was working with students individually. I work with individual students at a public location or whatnot. So I was working with students, and then also I started to work with different schools where it would bring me in to kind of work with certain students or whatnot, which was picking up until COVID happened.
Oh, so 2020.
All right. So, that's the direction I was headed to. And a lot of opportunities opened up from that. Were opening up.
2020.
Right, until 2020. So that's still my goal, to really kind of really work with schools. I want to work with students in the school, and actually one of the things I kind of was getting more into was actually coaching teachers, which kind of just naturally came about to another avenue of things I was working in. And I had other partnerships coming up with nonprofits that I was working with to kind of just be more involved in the community, like financial literacy. A lot of those things kind of fell through the cracks with 2020.
But you know what? Better will come back, Devin, because like I said, that I see your passion and I see your involvement, and you could smell it. I don't even have you in front of me, and you could see it. I think I saw, because we actually met on Instagram. We are like intellectual. I always call my husband. I tell my husband, "Oh my God, I have an intellectual crush. Look at this guy's math fitting." My husband is so tired of math. He's like, "Okay," but I think, Devin, that you will get back to do that. And I think now, what would be your advice, Devin, to someone that is right now failing math? Someone that it could be a young Devin and said, I can do this, I'm done. What would you tell that student?
Yeah, I mean, it's always like a yet thing, right? It's kind of, when I see students struggling and whatnot, it's a matter of it's kind of like part of the process. It's part of the learning process. The fact that you're stressing and struggling with it it can be a good sign because it means that you're grappling with the thought of it and the material, whatnot. So if you continue to kind of grapple with it, you're going to reach that point where you're going to conquer it, and, you will have that light bulb moment, and that's typically kind of how it goes. It's definitely a process. I think we kind of like create this image of math where it's like there's people who are good at math and people who are not good at math. I'm like, that's not the case.
You are absolutely right. And I want to say this. People need to stop thinking, oh, you're good in math. No, this is like an athlete. Whoever is good in math is because they sit down and they do hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Devin, how many math questions do you think you've done for fun? See, that's what I'm saying. Like,
I have papers right here of like problems I'm working out, statistics, just like in my spare time, just working on stuff, And some of the stuff I already know, I just continue to work on it so I can stay fresh on it,
Because it's a language.
Like you don't just learn and just know it. Like I have to come back and work on this.
Yes, yes. And that's important. And I tell that to my students, especially at the beginning when they were very stressful because they feel like it's a math tutor. I'm like, look, I just like math and we do math. And I promise you, you can get to anything you want as long as you do it, period. That's it. This is no, I have seen, Devin, two girls that you could see that they had like a difficulty, because some people do have much more difficulties than others. Not so much math on the learning part, right? And they excel in math at the end. It took years. We worked together, but they did it. And I was thinking, wow, who do you think just observational? What have you had more top women students or men? Who do you think are the most disciplined on math? I'm going to say girls from observation. That's it.
I think for me, it's hard I have way more women students or female students than anything. And I feel like a lot of it has to do with just the male complex of not wanting to ask for help. I always feel like what it is, because I'm like, I don't have to work with that many male students. Typically if I work with a male student, it's because a parent, requested tutor for their child.
That's true. Yes.
And I have some, who are in college who request a tutor, but it's typically like a one-off thing. And then it's a very few who probably I work with consistently, but it's definitely female dominated. And I think it's just, I mean, that's my opinion. I feel like males don't want to ask for help, and the women are more like, hey, I need help. Where
And if this trend continues, and I know in 20 years people are gonna looking at this podcast, I hope so, and they say, wow, she was right. If this trend continues, more women are gonna be in the STEM because I mean, I love it. I have a daughter. Of course, I want her to, understand numbers, but I think that I do see you're right. I think gender, if we talk about gender and maybe like a relationship between gender, right, and statistics and which ones work the hardest, I agree with you. I think girls are more aggressive and more competition when it comes to math. But you're right. They are less shy than the guys to ask for help. Usually guys are more like, especially if it's like a woman, maybe like a guy to guy, or maybe they don't. Maybe they feel the same way, Maybe it's not a thing about asking if it's a female tutor or male tutor. They're just really shy in general. But Devin, I had a great time today. And listen, I want to do another podcast with you because I think you know a lot about education. You breathe education. I also enjoy tremendously your Instagram, which I'm going to put here on, for everyone to go and see. And of course, if they want to work with you, I hope they have the pleasure to work with you. But Devin, I really, really thank you, because I know we've been trying to plan this interview. Like, I think it was last week, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going crazy. Let's do it next week. And I appreciate that because I know how it is, how busy you are and everything. Devin, do you have any last words for our listeners today that love or hate math?
Yeah, so, well, just to think, I had something in mind that I just lost my memory. But I mean, when it comes to math, I guess I would really want to just encourage people of the idea of like, there's no such thing as a good math person or a bad math person, you know. And I feel like it's kind of that growth mindset that, you know, that I think that's good to adopt, that like we can learn and grow in anything, you know, and that includes math and anything in life, you know, like anything you want to learn, you know. And I hate that it sounds cliche, but it's like, you know, anything you work at, you can learn, and including math, you know. So whenever somebody feel like they're not at a point there, then, you know, like you keep struggling and grappling with it. It's like the process of learning and growing, you know. So stressing the struggle, and it kind of can be a good thing in a lot of ways. So
It is
embrace
true.
it.
I like that. Yes, embrace it and say, because yes, we struggle. I have had struggle for an hour in a problem that you're like, but what is wrong? And you go over it. And then once you get that problem solved, you feel like, it's like,
Yep.
you know, there's no feeling or money that can ever describe that. Thank you so much, Devin. I really appreciate it. I
Thank
want to
you.
say bye-bye and have a great day.
You too.